about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good evening, everybody. It's John here from Tutor to You. Welcome you to another live stream on for BTEC Applied Psychology. We're going to be continuing our little run on the social approach, and we're considering the self-concept tonight. That's our topic. Massive welcome to those of you who are joining us live. And I can see from my little click counter down here, we've got a few of you joining us live. Hopefully you're going to take part and actually give us some of your thoughts on the answers to the questions in the chat window. If you're here on watching through replay, which I know hundreds if not thousands of people have been doing in recent weeks, welcome to you as well. You've got a little bit more time. You can pause the video at the appropriate times and have a go at the questions yourself. Big welcome to Reese in the middle of the screen and Simon on the right hand side. Evening both. Are you okay?
Evening, John.
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Good, thanks.
Good stuff. Good to see you. And are we ready to get started, gents?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ready?
I'll hand over then. Here we go.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. So this is a session on self-concept. It's one of the new concepts in the social approach. So we'll be going through the knowledge activities, so knowing about the key terms, looking at some examples in today's session. So generally we don't look at many examples. We have a whole game. We have to try and look at the examples and apply it to which part of self-concept. And then we are looking at some evaluation points towards the end as well. So if we go on to the next slide, I should be able to tell you what self-concept is all about. So self-concept is the attitudes we hold to ourselves. Okay, it's a bit like our true self. So if any of you have been looking at self-actualization at all, and the ideal self and true self, this is a bit like your true self. It's the attitudes we hold about ourselves and how you currently deem yourself. And obviously this can be deemed, or this can be influenced by those around you and the feedback they give. Okay, so that our self-concept can be influenced by others, hence why it's in the social approach. Okay, so it does change. Sorry, your self-concept, your attitudes about yourself does change throughout your lifetime. When you're younger, if you get asked, okay, who are you as a person when you're younger? Okay, it's more about your self-discovery, what you're good at, and your identity, and the identity you formed yourself. Whereas as you get old, and your self-concept more or less changes as each day goes on. Whereas as you get older, okay, your self-perception is more detailed, more organized, and how are you as a person, personality-wise? Okay, are you hard-working? Instead of what you're good at, it's what are personality-wise and your credentials and your traits. So that is self-concept. I think we're going on to the first game, which is Confusion Pairs with Simon.
Okay, good evening all. Okay, so reasonably straightforward. All you have to do is have a look at these key terms and the definitions and work out if they are the correct way around. So you've got self-concept and self-image there. So are those definitions next to the correct key terms, or are they incorrect? Okay, do you think they are the other way round, or should be the other way round? So we've got self-concept and self-image. So self-concept, how you see yourself, which includes attributes such as physical characteristics, personality traits, and social roles. And then next to self-image, you've got the attitudes we hold about ourselves and how you deem yourself currently. So are they the correct way around or not? Have a think. Give us your answers. Okay, let's have a look at the answers then. So as you can see, they were not the correct way around. So the self-concept is actually the attitudes we hold about ourselves, and the self-image is how you see yourself characteristics-wise. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Okay, so are these the correct way around? So you've got self-esteem and ideal self. So is self-esteem the person you want to be and who you want to become? And is the ideal self an evaluation of our traits, abilities, and characteristics, or should they be the other way around? Hello to those people that are popping onto the comments. What do you think? Do you think they are the correct way around? Is that self-esteem? Is that ideal self? Okay, let's have a look at the answers then, and we'll find out that they actually weren't the right way around. So self-esteem is an evaluation of our traits, abilities, and characteristics. It's also how much we actually we like ourselves. When we say an evaluation, it's our strengths and weaknesses. So do we like what we see when we look at ourselves, when we evaluate ourselves? And then the ideal self is the person who you want to be. So literally, ideally, who would you be? Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Okay, are these the right way around? So self-efficacy, is it how confident you are to complete an action or task successfully? And is self-esteem an evaluation of our trait, abilities, and characteristics, or should they be the other way around? Hopefully, looking at the last slide, you've got a good idea. Okay, so are those the correct way around, or are they not? Okay, let's have a look at the answer. They are the correct way around. So self-efficacy, how confident you are to complete an action or task successfully, and self-esteem, an evaluation of our trait, abilities, and characteristics. So that's the idea of self-efficacy is not necessarily confidence generally. It is a specific task. You think you are able to complete that task. Okay, I think there is one more. Okay, so we've got vicarious learning and social persuasion. Okay, so are these the correct way around? Have a look. Okay, so vicarious learning, is it reinforcement of a behavior having seen someone else being rewarded for their actions or punished? And social persuasion, is that encouragement from others which influences a person's self-efficacy? Okay, let's have a look at the answer, and hopefully you have realized that they are the correct way round. Okay, so vicarious learning is learning through someone else, that idea of vicarious reinforcement. Observing a role model, usually being rewarded or punished, and then that reinforces the behavior in the observer, makes that behavior more likely if it's rewarded or less likely if it's punished. Okay, let's pop over to Reese again.
Okay, so like I said, we've just given you a brief description of self-concept and also some of the key terms. Okay, some of those key terms you've already seen, okay, or some of the key terms on this slide at the moment have already been seen in the game just now. So Rogers, okay, don't forget, I've already mentioned as well self-actualization, okay, about your true self and your ideal self. Okay, so ideal self is the person you want to be and the person you want to become. Okay, this, if your true self, okay, your self-image, how you see yourself, okay, this can impact your self-esteem as well. So your ideal self and your self-image are really closely linked, okay? Where you want to become, what's your ideal dream job, okay, or your ideal personality. If you're close to that, okay, your self-esteem will be positive. You have a positive self-esteem, okay? If your ideal self and your self-image are quite far apart, that's going to have an impact on your self-esteem, and going to actually, how am I going to get better? If you're not so far off, others may influence that as well. And if you're comparing to people around you, so like role models and social learning theory, okay, if you're comparing comparing yourself to others, and you're not being as successful as those, that could have an impact on self-esteem as well. Okay, so if we go on to the next slide. Okay, and like I said, when true self and also self-image and ideal self are far apart, okay, that is a state of incongruence. So that is one of the key terms. So yes, it's not key terms originally on the specification, but it's a key term I like to get the students just to know. It's just the difference between self-image and ideal self. And if there is incongruence, that will negatively impact your self-esteem. Like I said before, if your ideal self and self-image, the gap, I normally think of a Venn diagram. If there's less overlap, okay, or if there's more of an overlap of your ideal self and your self-image, okay, you're going to have better self-esteem. Okay, so that is what it's meant by self-concept, and this is how the self-concept or self-image can influence your self-esteem as well. I think we're going on to the next part, which is the Beat the Teacher with Simon.
Okay, so this is a reasonably straightforward little activity, great for identifying where you have gaps in your knowledge. All you need to do is read the next passage, and there are some errors highlighted. All you need to do is have a look through the passage, see if you can work out where the errors are. We will highlight the errors in a second. See if you can, we'll give you a couple of minutes to see if you can work them out yourself first. Okay, we'll highlight the errors in a minute, and then we'll see what the correction should be. Okay, so take a minute now, have a look through the passage. Can you work out if there are any errors there? We'll give you a little clue. There are 5 errors there. There are 5 errors there. Okay, can you work out if there's any wrong words in those paragraphs? Use what Reese has been saying in the last couple of slides. Okay, let's have a look at where the errors are. Okay, so here are the errors. Okay, we'll give you a minute to have a look at the errors and see if you can work out what they should be. Okay, so if your ideal self is a long way off, is that going to positively impact your self-esteem? Well, obviously not, but what should it be? That should be straightforward. The next one's slightly more difficult. The person's self-esteem is affected by many factors. What is affected by many factors? What should be there? Okay, let's have a look at the correct answers then. So this is what the paragraph should read like. So if your ideal self is a long way off from how you perceive your self-image, that can negatively impact your self-esteem. So if where you'd ideally like to be is a long way from where you are now, obviously you're not going to feel as good about yourself. A person's self-image is what we're after there, is affected by many factors. In the second paragraph, a positive self-image stems from positive feedback. So basically having people say nice things about you. Although humans do not always interpret feedback accurately, they believe sometimes that someone's only being nice. So if someone says, oh, you've got really nice hair, then it could be that we misinterpret that positive feedback. Okay, it might be that we think that it's not because they're being nice and wanting to increase our self-esteem. Sometimes we think that, that is just that they're being nice, but they're not right about it. Last paragraph, research has shown that young people tend to describe themselves, their self-image in terms of personal traits, whereas older people feel defined by their social roles. Highlighting the influence of others in a person's environment does have an impact. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. And we're going to go back to Reese.
Okay, so we've just spoken about, we've seen about self. So we're just going on to self-esteem now. So as we saw from the very first game, self-esteem is an evaluation, okay, of our own traits and characteristics. Okay, so we can, as is part of the social approach, this is an evaluation of ourselves, but is impacted by those around you. Okay, this could be by what you think others see around you. So if people agree with your ideas, maybe you've done a group task and you've come up with an idea and everyone has agreed with your idea, you have a better or more positive self-esteem of yourself. But actually, I'm coming up with the correct ideas and everyone else is coming along with me. And some people will actually go, well, actually, we're going to listen to say we're going to listen to Reese just because he's correct. Therefore, your self-esteem is going to be more positive. Okay. It can also be influenced by how you compare yourself to others. So don't forget, like I said earlier, if you're comparing yourself to others and you're comparing yourself to someone similar and you're not progressing in the same way, that could affect your self-esteem negatively. Okay. And sometimes that is what's happening. Well, that's what's happening nowadays with the whole influencers and social media. Okay, and what happens with those who could be anorexic? They compare themselves to others. Okay, deem them to be more attractive because maybe they're skinnier. Okay, and therefore that's going to lower your self-esteem. So how you compare yourself to others will lower your self-esteem. And the last point is your role in society. So someone who has a more respected role in, or more traditional sense of respected role in society, say a police officer, a doctor, a teacher, they could have a greater sense of self-esteem or more positive sense of self-esteem compared to someone who would maybe carry a stigma in society, maybe someone who has a mental health illness. Unfortunately, it does happen still these days, but that could lower your self-esteem even more. Or maybe it's an occupation which is deemed as less essential. Therefore, your role in society could impact your self-esteem as well. Okay, so we're now going to go on to our next task, also the next information part, and that's self-efficacy. Okay, so self-efficacy is sometimes used as self-confidence. So I know there's lots of key terms we'll be going through today about different types of key terms with the word self in. So it does get quite hard, and just to make sure, by going back on this presentation, you can just go through the key terms over and over again to make sure you've got the correct terms. So self-efficacy is sometimes used as self-confidence, but we try and stay away from the term self-confidence, okay? But it more or less means the same thing, okay? So self-efficacy, okay, there are four main parts, okay? If you learn about this, and you do learn about self-efficacy theory in Unit 3, there are four main parts. Your mastery of experiences, so if you've got greater success previously, you're going to have more self-confidence. If you learn from others, you have more self-confidence and social state. Okay, we only go in this part of approach, only in the social approach, do we go into, okay, only in the social approach do we go into vicarious learning and social persuasion, because the others, past mastery experiences, is part of the cognitive approach, and the emotional state kind of looks at the arousal state as well. So it's not really influenced by others. So you have the vicarious learning. So by looking, I know we've not covered the social learning theory yet. We'll be doing that either next week or the week after. But vicarious learning is when you observe someone who is similar to you, maybe a role model or someone who's in a similar social demographic as you, and you aspire to be them. Okay, they complete a task, and this increases your belief that you can be successful as well. However, it could do the opposite. If you see someone who is similar to you, they're achieving success, and you're not achieving success, that can then lower your self-efficacy as well. And the social persuasion, okay, this is the encouragement from others, and again, this can be both positive or negative, okay, or discouragement. Okay, so if you have people around you saying you could do this, maybe it's someone who wants to lose weight, and you have someone around you saying, "Oh, you're doing great so far. You can keep on doing it. You can lose the weight you want." Okay, that will encourage people, and that will increase your self-efficacy. Okay, there could be people who are the opposite goals. You've tried for so long. Okay, you've been trying for 4 or 5 weeks. Okay, and you're not losing anything. You might as well give up now, and that will lower someone's self-efficacy. Okay, so they're the key points. There are 4 main aspects which influence self-efficacy, but only 2 of those are focusing on the social approach. That's vicarious learning and social persuasion. I think on to the next game. I think, and that is still me. So this one, like I said from the very first slide, okay, we don't often look at the examples, real life examples, the AO2, the application, okay, of questions on these sessions. So this next game, the 60-second challenge. Okay, you're going to match the letters on the left-hand side, which are real life, which are the key terms, to the numbers on the right, which are real life examples. So if you go on to the next slide, please, John. So you can see here's the left-hand side. You've got the letters, and then you've got the numbers on the right hand side. We're going to have a minute to try and link up the letters on the left hand side to the example, to the numbers and the examples on the right hand side. 60 seconds, and let's go. Okay, if we go on to the next slide, that should then we've got some answers there. Oh. Not sure why there's music there as well. So these are the correct answers. So you've got A goes with 1. Okay, so the factors of self-image. Don't forget, self-image is manipulated by friends, family, or the media. So if the media states that a celebrity is overweight or they're a size 12, someone who's size 12 may also deem themselves overweight, therefore would have an impact on self-image. Okay, B is then with 2. Okay, so how do you compare yourself? So comparing yourself to social media influencers and celebrities. Okay, that is a real life example. Again, vicarious learning example, and AO2. Okay, you have to come up with an example. Someone who sees a friend who has lost a lot of weight, who's used to be the same weight as them, could feel capable of doing the same. Social persuasion, like I just said in the previous slide. Okay, personal trainer can motivate someone who's trying to lose weight by saying, you could do this, you were doing so well. Okay, and then your social dissuasion. What's the point of going to the gym? Are you sure what you were doing is safe? And like I said before, and another example is, you've been trying for 5 weeks, you've not lost any weight. What is the point of doing it? And then your role in society. An example of this: self-esteem. If you have an occupation such as a doctor, teacher, compared to someone who's homeless or drug user, your self-esteem will be affected due to your role in society. Okay, so I think the next game is with Simon, and that's the evaluation points.
Okay, so this is reasonably straightforward again. All you need to do is have a look at the evaluation points you've got there and work out whether those evaluation points are evaluation of the self-concept idea or the social approach overall. Okay, so we'll give you a minute and have a look at those. Okay, let's have a look at some answers then. So which of those are self-concept evaluation points and which are social approach evaluation points? So let's have a look at these then. Okay, so a meta-analysis from Harrison Orth in 2020 supported the theory that social relationships influenced self-esteem. So that was obviously something to do with our self-concept, the way that we view ourselves. Point number 4 then is also an evaluation point for self-concept, social persuasion. That, remember what we were saying before about people giving you supportive comments can lead to overconfidence, making a person not increase their effort level. So while I'm doing these, think about whether these are strengths or weaknesses. We're going to talk about that in a second, but have a think while I'm going through them. Number 5 was also an evaluation point of the self-concepts. It says many concepts overlap with each other and are so closely correlated that some psychologists may deem them the same thing. Okay, so they are all evaluation points to do with the self-concept. Think about whether they're strengths or weaknesses. And then the other evaluation points were evaluation points of the social approach. Number 2, fails to consider the role of authority. So we don't even look at that as part of our social approach. Number 3, minority influence is not considered, as it is believed you would conform with the rest of the group. And number 6, most of the major studies are unethical, and to obtain valid results, experiments were done without the participants' knowledge. Okay, so again, think about whether they are strengths or weaknesses. Okay, and we are going to move over to Reese now.
Hi, Reese. I think you might be muted.
Sorry, apologies for that. So, apologies for being muted. So, as Simon was following on there, lots of the evaluation points do have strengths and weaknesses. The whole of the social approach evaluation were all weaknesses. Okay, so if you want to talk to your teacher about any of the evaluation, these are whole evaluations of the whole approach. But going on to this slide, okay, my best tip for exam question preparation is annotate your exam question paper or your exam paper. There's no reason why you cannot annotate your exam questions. Okay, I get my students to always underline the command words just so you understand what is actually being asked. If you don't know what's being asked, some 9-mark questions will ask for an evaluation and an exclusion and a conclusion. So if you need to evaluate or analyze or discuss, they need a conclusion. Okay, so you need to underline the command words in the question to actually understand what is needed in your answer. I'll also suggest highlight the topic words. Okay, so when you highlight the topic words, you know what the question is about, what part of the specification you need to go into, and it also helps plan your answer. I see many students who don't highlight the topic words, start talking about something completely different, and then when we reflected back to the exam and said, what does the question say? Okay, what is it actually asking you about? What part of the specification is the question asking for? So take some time. Don't be afraid to annotate the exam paper when you're in the exam, because it could help you, prompt you, or have a cue. So using some of the cognitive approach to your advantage. So using the highlight the topic words and memory some of the work you've done in lessons. And that's my exam tip or exam goal for this week.
Wow. I always say this, absolutely fascinating stuff, and I completely mean it. I was thinking really deeply about what you were saying, particularly towards the beginning, and how self-concept changes as you get older. And it struck me as probably the oldest person, certainly on this panel, but probably listening to this live stream as we speak, that I can confirm self-concept definitely gets different as you get older. I was also thinking about self-esteem as well. I don't know whether you gents would know the answer to this one. Is there any evidence that self-esteem, lack of self-esteem, is getting worse in this sort of age of social media and attention to personal, how one looks? Is that fair, or have I got that wrong?
I don't know of any research. We've done our own class studies on it, and it does seem to be that there is an increase in kind of anxiety among students, but anxiety wasn't studied until quite recently, so it's difficult to compare students now with students, say, 50 years ago. So
I think social media nowadays is quite to be behind in the last 5-6 years, but research studies take a while. So I think possibly we'll see research studies coming out which will suggest that
may be the case. Although that's a really good that's a really good lesson in just not making assumptions, isn't it? And waiting for the outcome of research. That's a really good stuff.
You never know.
You never know. Gents, once again, thanks so much for putting that together and presenting some absolutely fascinating stuff. Thanks to those of you who took part live and answered the questions as we were going through them. Wonderful stuff. The PowerPoint will be available to download before the end of this evening, and you can watch this video all over again if you wish, if you wanted to follow that all through. We're back on again next Monday, I believe, gents. Is that Sean Sandy?
That's correct, yeah.
We'll look forward to seeing everybody next Monday. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.